What's up, everybody? First and foremost, happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. But we're gonna get right into this. So I know everybody has seen all of the comments, all of the posts on social media, all across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But one thing I do see is there's a lot of confusion as far as what happened, and there's gonna be a lot of confusion because for the most part, we really won't ever know the truth other than what the courts decide to put out and stuff like that. So the facts are there, but a lot of this stuff that we want to know, like a lot of the questions we want to know answers to, I'm gonna be honest, we really won't have answers to because a lot of you guys think that this case is done and it's not because they all accepted plea deals. So we're gonna get into that a little bit later in the video, but for we're I just want to address some of the confusion because if you weren't directly involved with this case, then it does get a little blurry. But when you kind of know how the court proceedings work, then you can kind of piece it together a little bit better. And I'm not a law expert or anything like that, or some sort of like attorney or anything like that, like able to give legal advice. But I have general knowledge of how uh, court proceedings go. Now, a RICO case is up there when it comes to charges and stuff like that. But we're gonna start from the beginning. So YSL gets hit with a RICO. Uh, basically at the top of everything, we got Young Thug. Now there were a lot of people on this case. There was almost, I want to say, 30, probably 35 or more people on this case. But everybody only cared about Young Thug, Gunna, Yak Gotti, Woody, and Funk. Those are the only people everybody cared about. So all of these people get arrested. All of these people are in court. Court proceedings go as normal. Um, prosecutors are trying to establish basically YSL as a gang, and Young Thug is basically doing things in the city of Atlanta that are illegal to help YSL as a gang. So we're gonna just go down the line. First person to tell was Young Thug, um, and he really sets the tone. Well, not the tone, but he really gives the basis of the whole entire case. What that means is, so you guys could go find it. There's a phone call. Young Thug is basically, this is why Young Thug says Gunna snitched, was because Gunna's video of him in court basically agreeing that YSL is a gang and he knows people that have done crimes in furtherance of YSL is a gang is the main basis of the case for the RICO charges, because that's that's what you need. That's like, you got to set a foundation, and that's kind of where the prosecutors were trying to, that's the angle that they were trying to go. Now they still have to even though Gunna, and this is why it went on so long, because even though Gunna set the foundation and the basis of the YSL gang RICO, they still have to prove all of that stuff. They still have to prove it. They still have to connect Young Thug back to everything. So I understand why Young Thug would come out and say he snitched. He did, but it mainly gave them the basis of the case, is basically saying, yes, YSL is a gang. Yes, people have done crimes in the furtherance of YSL as a gang. Yes, I myself have financially aided YSL in furtherance of a gang. Right? Now, this is where it really gets federal. This is where it really gets federal. If if in that same video, the lady asks Gunna, okay, now tell us what crimes were committed and tell us who committed those crimes. If the lady asks him that in that video where he was in court taking his plea deal, that's federal. Gunna's done. I'd be done with Gunna. That's you overly telling at that point. So, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So if she asks him those questions, basically saying, okay, now, okay, YSL is a gang. Now tell us what crimes they've committed in furtherance of YSL as a gang, and tell us what you tell us your involvement in it. If they ask him those two questions and he answers, then it's over with. He's cooked. But he doesn't. He just gives them the basis of the case, which is YSL a gang, right? So boom. After he tells, the next person to tell on the stand, which is a little crazy, is Woody. Okay, but Woody, and there's two people that are the smartest people out of this whole situation, and we're gonna get to that later. But the next person to tell is Woody, right? But Woody tells on the stand. Now there was a shooting of Rich Homie Quan's dad's barbershop. Okay, that Woody and another person did. Okay, Woody and another person did that shooting, but the way they were trying to connect it to Young Thug was because the car was a rental car that Young Thug paid for, which they used to go do the shooting. But the way the way they tried to spin it was Young Thug wanted you guys to go do that, and Woody's smart. He tried to spin the narrative and say no. My buddy had a problem with those guys over there, so I'm riding with my boy no matter what, right or wrong, right? So prosecutors tried to connect the dots, try to paint the picture. Woody wasn't letting it happen. Also, Brian Still wasn't letting it happen, and then it eventually came down to the point where Woody had to basically say, did he do it or not? And and this really showed the weakness of the prosecutors' arguments because they got desperate. They got desperate. They wanted it so bad. They just wanted to get it over with so bad that they ended up giving him immunity for it. And there's you can go find the clips. There's clips all the clips of him in court, him saying, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna say it," and then, "No, no, I don't think I want to do this anymore." And then the judge is like, "Man, you kind of like you have to now. We just gave you immunity on the stand. If you don't do it, I'm gonna find you in contempt." And he's like, okay, like Jesus Christ, like, all right, man, I'm gonna tell him. And then he finally ends up saying it. That yeah, we did that, and but it was like, you know, at that point, it was like, okay, we already knew you did it, but then now we can't even do nothing to you for it because we gave you immunity. We gave you immunity for it. So why are we here? Like the one incident that they had to connect to Young Thug, they gave the only guy that was willing to say something about it immunity, right? So they can't do anything to Woody for it, right? But they can still use that as leverage against Young Thug. So after that, we go back, right? So now this is where everything kind of, like I said, if you weren't directly involved with this case, it kind of gets a little misconstrued because a lot of things happen, right? So this, I'm assuming I've seen it. This is Young Thug's brother, okay? So I'm gonna give you my opinion, and then I'm gonna give you kind of like facts, the factual standpoint. So, in my opinion, and my honest opinion, after Woody tells on the stand and gets immunity for it, my honest opinion, I think Young Thug goes back to jail. He's sitting in his cell, and he's just thinking like, why am I here? The only situation that you guys have like somewhat successfully connected me to, you gave him immunity for it. You guys were that thirsty and that desperate that you gave him immunity for it. So you can't even do anything to him for that. Right? But in the back of his mind, I know he's probably thinking, okay, they can't do anything to him, but they're probably still going to try to use it as leverage against me with the jury and, oh, I'm such this bad guy. So, in my personal opinion, I think right after Woody tells, Young Thug goes back to jail. Now, whether he was advised by Brian Steele to tell after that, to take his plea, I'm not 100% sure about that because we haven't had that information. But my personal opinion is right after YSL Woody tell, Young Thug goes back to jail and he's like, I'm just gonna take my plea. I'm just gonna take the plea deal so I can get out because there's nothing else. There, you guys don't have anything else to really connect me to. Everything else that you tried to connect me to, Brian still has done a wonderful job of deflecting that and redirecting all of that. And I seen a lot of people in the comments of all these posts on social media saying, "Oh, well, Brian, gonna Young Thug had to take a plea deal, so Brian still may have not didn't really do his job." No, Brian still did a wonderful job. Brian still did a wonderful job. The prosecutor's job is to paint the picture, and your attorney's job is to paint a better picture. And Brian still did a wonderful job of that. Mainly, he took the focus off of Young Thug and put it on himself. And in my personal opinion, that's what Woody did as well. All of the antics in court, and wait, why you shrug your shoulders? Because these my shoulders. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's just like stuff like that. I really feel like the reason why they got found why Yak Gotti uh the reason why Yak Gotti ended up even beating the case and getting found not guilty is because of this man. All of his antics in court and all the stuff that he did in court, telling the lady she stink and all that stuff. In my personal opinion, I think the jurors didn't even care anymore at that point because it showed the weakness of the prosecutor's argument. So you guys really didn't have a case. You guys weren't prepared. Like I said, everything that you guys brought, Brian Steele pretty much did a great job of redirecting all of that. You know, so in my personal opinion, after Woody gets immunity on the stand and tells, Young Thug goes back to jail. He consciously makes a decision to take his plea. Now, for everybody that doesn't understand fully what a plea deal is an agreement of terms and conditions between the prosecutor, the judge, and the defendant, right? So nobody wants to go to jail in this situation, right? Nobody wants to go to jail. So when Gunna took his plea deal, it was for no jail time, but everybody knows when you take a plea deal, all the investigators and prosecutors, all they want is information. That's it. All they want is information. You don't want to go to jail. Okay, give us this information. It has to be sufficient, viable information that we could maybe use later on if you decide to violate whatever terms and conditions of your plea deal is. So, you know, everybody thinks this case is over, and it's definitely not over. Like, it's absolutely not over. And we're going to get into that later, too. So, again, going back to after YSL Woody tells, I genuinely think he's sitting in jail. Like, bro, I'm finna just take my plea too. Now, this is where it kind of gets, a little bit foggy because everybody is saying, you know, well, everybody is saying Young Thug told Funk to take a plea deal, right? Now, this is I'm gonna give you my opinion and I'm gonna give you the facts. My opinion, if this is Young Thug's brother, he did tell him to take the plea. He did. Because after YSL Woody tells, and they can't do anything to Woody, but they can still probably use that as leverage against him. And this is my brother, and I know I'm about to take my plea, right? Which they're gonna want information from me. They're gonna want me to tell too. They're gonna want me to tell too. So I'm gonna tell my brother, hey, I'm about to take my plea, so they gonna want me to tell. So look, you go take your plea so that you can get out, cause I'm about to get out. So that's genuinely how I think that happened. And so, yes, I personally think Young Thug told him to do it because this is his brother. Why would he want his brother to be sitting in jail? And apparently he already did 12 years. So I don't, you know, why would you want your brother still sitting in jail knowing that you're about to tell too? So that's my personal opinion. But if we go over to the facts are Young Thug got out right before the verdict, and Funk got out before the verdict. Now it wasn't released when Funk took his plea deal and got out, but we could kind of gauge from when Young Thug got out, right? Right after YSL Woody Tell, he got out probably like a month and a couple weeks after Woody told. So you could kind of like piece it together. Or he told Funk to tell. He told Funk to take his plea because the time span between YSL Woody telling and Young Thug getting out, it's not that far of a time span. Now factually, whether he told him to do it or not, let's just go into scenarios, right? Let's just go into scenarios. Okay, fact is YSL Woody tells, right? So Young Thug goes back to jail. Let's go into scenarios. Scenario one. Scenario one is Young Thug doesn't tell Funk to tell. So, but the fact is, Funk did take a plea because he came home and was telling everybody that Young Thug told him to take the plea, right? So, but it's on paper though. It's already on paper that he took the plea. So let's just go scenario one where Young Thug doesn't tell him, right? At that moment, when Young Thug found out that Funk took the plea, he already had it made up in his mind that he was gonna take a plea too. Because because Young Thug knows the more people that tells and takes pleas on this case, the worse it is for him probably. And Woody already told on the stand he got immunity for it though for him, not Young Thug. They still they I'm like 99% sure they were still gonna use that as leverage against Young Thug. So That's scenario A. Scenario B is, you know, he does tell him to take the plea. That's scenario B. He does tell him to take the plea. Because like I said, right after Woody tells, why am I still here? Why am I still here? Everything else that you guys have tried to connect me to didn't work. You have weak arguments, and Brian Steele did an excellent job of proving that. So why am I still here? And a lot of people say, in the comments and all these posts, like, Young Thug didn't want to do that. Man, the man went in there and sat and talked to them for 2 hours. This is how I know. This is how I know, regardless of what any post will say, anybody that's of any real street code is not about to go talk to federal investigators for 2 hours and not one time ask to leave. I don't know if you guys sat there and listened to that interrogation or the interview, the 2 hour interview. Young Thug does not ask to leave one time. He does not ask to leave. There's no person on this earth that is of street code and that operates in the streets is going to voluntarily sit there with no attitude, talk to these people really nice. He was talking to them people like he knew them. So that's another reason why I think Young Thug knew after YSL Woody told on the stand. That's another reason why I think he knew he was gonna tell. He knew he was gonna tell. Cause nobody, you don't sit there for 2 hours talking to these people, you know. So he had a lot to get off his chest, and I get it. I understand who wants to sit in jail for life, 25 to life. That's what all of the charges that they was going to give Young Thug and everybody else life carried life. That's a RICO. That's racketeering charges. So I understand it. I completely do. Um, and the fact of the matter is, the two smartest people in this whole case, in my opinion, is number one, Woody, and then secondly, Gunna. It's Woody because like I said, he just showed how weak the prosecutors' arguments were and how thirsty they was to get him to tell on the stand, you know, to the point where they gave him immunity for it. It was just sloppy. Everything was sloppy. Everything was sloppy. So that he's the smartest person in this whole case, in my opinion. And then next is Gunna. I genuinely think Gunna had inside knowledge about Woody telling. I think he had inside knowledge about Woody telling. I think he knew Woody was gonna tell and try to get immunity on the stand. He also may have had inside knowledge about Thug telling, possibly, because you got to understand, going into all of this, everybody was cool. Everybody was cool with each other. So he had to be in the loop somehow. He had to be in the loop somehow because going in, everybody was cool with each other. Everybody was, buddy buddy. And then is when after all of the telling took place, that's when everything started to fall apart. So Um, yeah, I genuinely think, you know, out of all of this, and then, Yak Gotti ends up getting found not guilty. Right after Young Thug tells, it goes to the final verdict, and then they all get found not guilty. Now, there is a lot of people on this case that did not make it, that did not get to come home. But that's what a lot of people don't understand too, is everybody wasn't gonna come home. Everybody wasn't gonna be able to come home. Believe it or not, these the crimes that they're saying happened happened. Like, they did happen. The thing was is they was trying to get Young Thug, to basically take the blame, and he didn't want to, or it's not that he had to. It's just, his lawyer did a great job of not letting that happen. So at the end of it all, you guys gotta understand that somebody was gonna have to sit down for this. Like, somebody was, and at that point in the case, where Young Thug took his plea deal and stuff like that, it got I think the prosecutors just were like, they didn't care anymore, because they were getting made fun of in the public, and stuff like that. One of the judges was getting like threats and stuff like that. So I think the prosecutor, the judges, and the jury just wanted it all to be done. Like, they didn't even, like, everybody, after Woody told, everybody had checked out. Everybody, the judge, the prosecutors, the jury, everybody checked out. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And it was such a spectacle in social media that the jury couldn't, and I know they tell the jury, oh, don't, they take their phones, and, you can't really be on social media and the internet and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, uh, a case like this is hard. You're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about it. So, um, yeah, man. Do I feel now? The one person I feel the most bad for, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, you shouldn't." Blah blah blah. The one person I feel the most empathy for is Little Baby, because Little Baby, Young Thug says he jumped the gun, but you got to look at the situation for what it is. Um, Young Thug may be somebody Little Baby, kind of like looks up to in a way. Like, this is a business partner, but this is like, the guy that kind of like showed me the ropes almost, that brought me in. Now, P from QC is the one who kind of really gave him that start, as far as like putting money behind Little Baby to be able to become who he is right now. But Young Thug, he's from Atlanta. So, we you could go back. There's music videos with Young Thug and Lil Baby's in a music video, and this was way before Lil Baby was even rapping. This was way before Lil Baby was even a rapper. So we all know, we all can kind of like tell the relationship between Young Thug and Lil Baby. And the reason why I feel the most bad for it is because, in my personal opinion, you kind of manipulated Little Baby into cutting off a lot of the people that was good for him, like Pete from QC. That's the guy that gave him his start. You got Young Thug started beefing with Future. Lil Baby stopped messing with Future. Uh, Young Thug started beefing with Rollo. Everybody knows Rollo and Lil Baby was tight, locked in. Lil Baby stopped messing with Rollo because of Young Thug. Now, Lil Baby then cut off one of the greatest duos. that we recently had, which was Lil Baby and Gunna. So I know everybody's waiting to see what happens. If Lil Baby is gonna speak, I genuinely think he's not because it you defended somebody that told, you know, you defended somebody that told, and then you diss somebody that told. So it's like, you know, the dumbest person in this situation is Young Thug because how do you tell somebody to take a plea, right? How do you tell somebody to take a plea, right? But then you ridicule the other person that took the same kind of plea deal that you told that person to take. Funk and Gunna took the same kind of plea deal. So how are you mad at how are you calling Gunna a rat, but you're saying Funk did the right thing? That doesn't make sense. And we like I said, the basis of a plea deal is information. So Funk had to tell too. Funk had to give them some sort of information to get his plea deal. He had to. That's all they want is information. They don't care about anything. You're not about to get probation. I mean, community service, or you got to go to some class or something. No, they want is information, viable, sufficient information to be able to use in the future. That's it. That's all they want. So when a lot of people say, "Oh, this case is over," no, this man got 15 years of probation or something like that. This case is far from over. They're waiting for him to do something. They are foaming at the mouth, waiting for him to slip up so that they could revoke his probation and bring him back in and have him sitting in court facing life again. And if he does, it's gonna be worse because now the jury's gonna be looking like, man, we gave you a chance. Like the prosecutors already didn't have good arguments the first time. You actually did something so that they could do their homework and come back again, spin it and double back on you. So they may not be so nice the next time. That's why when Young Thug came home and for a little bit he was quiet, but then started popping this shit on Twitter and all of this and like. And I get it. You kind of have to respond to the snitching allegations and stuff like that because there's a lot of stuff coming out, especially with that 2 hour interview. He has an image to uphold, right? Which is he's a street guy. I operate on the street code, and there's an interview. There's a clip of an interview with him and Wallow and Gilly. He was I operate. I love life. So life. In life, I'm not gonna tell on you because I'm not supposed to tell. Like yo, bro, you just told though. And then I don't even think I could find this tweet. Now where's I don't even think I could find this tweet. Uh, this shit right here is crazy. Now, me personally, I think this is not real. I don't think this is real. But if it is real, this is insane. It's like, bro, what are you doing? You good? This is crazy to me. This is like Young Thug, like, man, fuck this shit, man. We all be getting fucked. Like, whoa, bro, like, chill out. Like, you wore the dress already. We good. You got that. We actually forgave you for that. Like, we forgot all about that, bro. You wore the dress already. But what's up, bro? Can we like address the 2 hour interview that the lady told you multiple times you didn't have to be here, and then you gave them folks your phone number and said to just call me whenever you want to know something. Can we talk about that? But you want to post shit like this? Me personally, I don't think it's real, but if it is, crazy, crazy, crazy work. So I understand why he's doing all the stuff that he's doing. It's just he's trying to save face at this point because he has the image to uphold, and everybody's like, oh well, he's coming out with a gospel album. He's definitely not about to come out with a gospel album. That's absolutely not happening. That's absolutely not happening. He just told again, basically saying he paid 50,000 for Gunna's number one album against the weekend. He released the album, it didn't debut at number one against somebody else. So if he's paying 50,000 for Gunna's number one album, what you think he doing for his own albums? He doing the same thing for his own albums. So if you think he finna release a gospel album, don't nobody want to hear that shit from him. Don't nobody want to hear that shit. Now, can he go back and start rapping about the same things he was rapping about before? Yes and no. If it's hard, ain't nobody gonna care. I'm gonna be honest with you. If the music is good, ain't nobody gonna care. Like we just not gonna believe it. At the end, that's it. At the end of the day, we just not gonna believe it. All this, street code and guns and blah blah blah. Like nobody's gonna believe it because it just got proved that none of that stuff that you rap about you actually did. So, is it gonna sound good though? Pretty sure it will. Are we gonna actually believe it? No, no, not at all. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. So, everybody is coming out the shadows. Well, not everybody, but you got Rallo. You got Rallo. You got 6ix9ine, of course. Everybody just completely bashed 6ix9ine for what he did, and I understand why. Um, so Atlanta is in shambles right now as far as the rap scene. The street code is not what you think it is. I promise you, because this right here is a win lose win situation, right? It's a win for the prosecutors and the feds, right? Because now they have him crashing out on Twitter, basically dismantling. They're able to break down what was going on in Atlanta from the inside out now with this. Um, and two, like I said, they have all of them on plea agreements. So all of them accepted some form of probation. So they're all being monitored constantly. So the case is far from over. He has 15 years or so of probation. They're going to watch him every step of the way, I promise you, and everybody else around him, whether they was involved with the case or not. They're watching everybody around him. Um, so it's a win for the feds, a loss for everybody, right? Because now they have to deal with this, right? They have to deal with stuff like this. Uh, but it's also a win for these guys because nobody's in jail. Well, not nobody. There's, like I said, there is a lot of people that didn't make it, but for the people that everybody was mainly concerned about, which was Gunna, Young Thug, Funk, Yak Gotti, and Woody, and yeah, all of those guys got out. So in that case, it was a win. So it's a win lose win. At the end of the day, it's a win lose win. So you just got to deal with the rat allegations, man. At this point, the best thing for Young Thug to do is what Gunna did. Just forget about all that, bro, and put out some good music. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know why he came home trying to call everybody a snitch and all of this and blah blah blah. Like as if you didn't tell, like. And if you go listen to the interview, the 2 hour interview, he's like, "Yeah, just take my phone number, call me whenever you want to know something. Just don't tell the public." As if those people have some sort of loyalty to you. Like, yo, like this is what they get paid to do. Like, even if Young Thug was paying them not to release it, it doesn't matter if you was paying them $1 million to not release it. Somebody could come with $1,000,001 and they're gonna put that shit out, bro. They gonna put it out. They're working with who's ever paying more. They're working with whoever's paying more, bro. So why Young Thug even came home trying to point the finger and call people rats and stuff, knowing that he had a 2 hour interrogation interview talking about stuff that already happened, talking about stuff that he didn't even need to talk about, is crazy to me. You know, um, everybody is calling this Roscoe guy brainwashed and stuff like that. Yeah, I kind of think he is, but at the same time, I understand why he would say the things he said because he already did the time for the whole tour bus thing, Lil Wayne's tour bus. He already did the time for that, so it's like, okay, like y'all tripping off that. I already did the time for that. So it's not like the police could go back and open up that case. You get what I'm saying? He already did the time. He got released in 2018 or 2019. He got released in 2018, 2019. The feds tried to bring him back and they messed up. The police tried to bring him back. They messed up. They didn't have sufficient arguments and the judge let him go with time served. So the fact that Young Thug even told him that was like pointless. So yeah, man, that's about everything. Like I said, me personally, Gunna, Young Thug, and Lil Baby need to get back together. Cause even shoot, everybody's saying that Lil Baby told too at one point he had a drug case some years ago and he told on that case. So uh I personally think, okay, we know everybody tells, bro. Like, cool, go make the music now. Like, what are we doing, bro? Everybody's gonna tell, bro. Everybody's gonna tell, bro. Nobody wants to sit in jail for life. You know, nobody wants to sit in jail for life, bro. Nobody does. So, especially after living the life that these guys lived, nobody wants to say, who wants to, you are living, you are having your way. They're having your way out in the world. Why would you go sit in confinement for the rest of your life? Nah, bro, I'm about to tell too. Like that's why, I got family. I know I got people, that are in the streets, and I tell them every day, bro, you better stop. You better stop, man, because the saying the streets don't love anybody is true, man. That they don't. The streets do not love anybody. The street code, it's not that it's not real. It's just nobody really operates on that anymore. Nobody really operates on that anymore. Mainly because you can go home, you can go to jail, snitch, come home. Females are still gonna fuck with you. And especially if you somebody that get money, a lot of dudes still gonna fuck with you. And that's just what it is. That's why a lot of people tell now, because the female is gonna look at you like, "Are you the smart one? Whoever you told on got 30 years, not you. So you the smart one. But not understanding you just got somebody 30 years. Like, what the fuck is you doing? You feel me? Y'all could have kept it solid. You could have kept it solid, and both of y'all at most would have got like 10 and came home in like 7. So yeah, man. At this point, everybody in Atlanta just need to come together and make some good music, bro. This is some good rap music, man. That's really all they can do at this point. Yep. So I am ready for the new snitch music that is coming out of Atlanta pretty soon. But I do go live on Twitch and TikTok just about every day, starting at 9:30, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm on the West Coast, and I'm currently trying to get into the live incentive program for TikTok. And with their help, I know we can make that happen.